When Evil Lurks is an Argentinian horror film with 3 separate release dates. The film premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 16, 2023. It received a theatrical release by IFC Films on October 6th and debuted on the streaming service Shudder on October 27th. It has been gaining popularity on the social media site TikTok and has been getting called the most disturbing movie as of late. I decided to give it a watch. How was it? Well... Welcome back, I'm Sippin and let me get the elephant out of the way. First and foremost, yes, spoiler warning ahead. Be sure to check this film out if you haven't already. And viewer discretion is advised as this film does have some disturbing themes, so be ready. But no, this movie is not the most disturbing movie ever. Let me explain. When Evil Lurks is an actual movie and not one of those highly banned, highly illegal, and highly awful movies. So while this isn't technically the most disturbing of all time, I don't plan on shining any light on those that shan't be named, you feel me? Even though I say all that, this film, When Evil Lurks, is disturbing and is definitely deserving of that title. The film opens up on 2 brothers living outside of a rural town in Argentina, Pedro and Jimmy, the younger brother. They work for a man named Ruiz. And yes, I will be pronouncing all these names wrong, so bear with me on that. They hear gunshots and debate on whether or not they should leave to investigate. But in the end, they ultimately decide to wait until morning. Which, can you really blame them? I mean, you hear gunshots. I mean, I wouldn't even go out in the morning. Eventually, the brothers stumble on a body split at the waist, and it's not afraid to show it. We eventually learn this person was a cleaner after the brothers head to Maria Elena's house. They see her oldest son, Uriel, has become a rotten. And brother, the practical effects they used in making Uriel look the way they did was actually really gross.
Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that? What's that, brother?
Well, nice and gross. You know what I mean. This movie is about an evil possession, but not in your typical sense. The possessions are a known thing. The police know they're a thing, yet they don't seem to care. Stay with me because later on I'll explain the meaning behind the rotten and the cleaners themselves. Ruiz learns of the rotten Uriel and forces Pedro and Jimmy to aid him in moving the Encarnado, or the rotten, off his land. As you can guess, that's where everything goes wrong. As they're heading down the street, they are forced to swerve in order to dodge a biker, but during this, they lose the rotten. This allows the movie to really begin. In the film, there are different rules one must abide by in order to stay in the limit of the breathing, as explained by the grandma, the mother of the brothers. 7 to be exact. The rules are as follows. Don't use electrical lights, stay away from animals, do not touch anything that has been touched or been near the rotten, don't harm them, do not call evil by its name, don't shoot them with firearms, and the 7th wasn't even given. But do me a favor, keep those in the back of your mind.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
That's because 2 rules are broken almost instantly. Jimena, Ruiz's wife, notices one of their goats has become possessed, hence the stay away from animals rule. Ruiz, breaking a rule, ends the goat with a firearm and is immediately taken out with a fire axe by Jimena, who then proceeds to recreate the movie poster. The CGI here was a little spotty, but in the end was still pretty good, and the quick and sudden nature of the axe coming at Ruiz caught me off guard. But eventually, Pedro heads into town to try and get his kids so they can flee. And well, this is where a very popular and very disturbing scene takes place. Pedro does manage to make it to his ex-wife's home. This is where we learn a little bit more about Pedro as a character. As we are told by Sabrina, he abandoned his family years ago, didn't pay any child support, and only recently decided to come back into his kids' lives, which also gets further explained a little bit later on. Pedro then breaks a rule himself. He changes clothes, but leaves his old ones on the floor by the family dog, Roger. Well, Roger proceeds to sniff his dirty clothes and becomes possessed, hence the breaking of the items near the rotten rule. What follows is one of the more disturbing scenes in all of cinema. I won't really discuss it much as it is over the top and extensive. If you know what scene this image is from, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, and you go looking for it, please just be ready. It's heavy. Roger lunges at Vicky and takes her outside away from her family as Leo and Pedro run out trying to save her, but they're a little too late. Another broken rule follows right after. Pedro notices that Leo found Roger and put him down with a firearm. But, well, it was no longer Roger as it was a demon, so Leo inadvertently broken a rule, causing him to be possessed. But before that, Pedro decides that, yep, maybe it's a good time to dip out. So he takes his 2 sons, Jair and Santino, and steals his ex-wife's car. Remember when I said Leo was possessed? Well, he slams his truck into Sabrina. Yep. After some time, Sabrina calls the grandma. But didn't I say Sabrina was eliminated? Yeah, she was. The demon can appear as a loved one and use their bodies. She calls to antagonize Pedro. She says the kids hate him and don't want to be around him and that she cheated on him, which sparks some theories. Now, I won't pretend I came up with this theory, but the first person I saw that had this theory was a Reddit user just browsing 333. The theory is that Sabrina cheated on Pedro with his brother Jimmy. They write, or type, I guess. If no one else picked up on it, I believe that Pedro's brother, Jaime, which I don't know why people always call him Jaime, in IMDb it literally says Jimmy, slept with Sabrina, his wife, and fathered Jair. Sure, you could explain the strong resemblance between uncle and nephew as genetics, but when Jaime hits Sabrina with a truck, as she says, "You told me you loved me." Yes, the possessed may have been attempting to manipulate Pedro by saying she cheated on him, but his alcoholism and subsequent suicide attempt with the children and then abandoning his family for 6 years could have been a result of the affair. The corrupt police, the affair among family, among other things unknown, might have been what invited the rotten in, and when evil lurks, it tends to spread unless exposed and cleansed. The children protecting the rotten, family secrets, just something I took away from it. While great and believable, the message of the film is a little bit different, and you don't have to take my word on it, as Damien Rugna, the director of the film, told Polygon at the 2023 Fantastic Fest in Austin, Texas. The true message of the film, and stick with me because soon I'll let you know what he said. So after a while, because I don't want to tell you every single detail of the film, they go to a woman's house. Her name? Mirtha. Her importance? She's a cleaner. Jair, the oldest son, is sleeping in the car, and Santino is sleeping inside with his grandma. But this, my friend, is the climax.
Pause.
Doodoo finna smash that fan. Sabrina, the demon-possessed version, has found them. She takes Santino and dibs out. During all of this, we learn, thanks to Mirtha, is that Jair is also possessed, evident in how the demon has contorted his hands and feet. One thing that I haven't quite mentioned yet, the movie informs us that Jair is autistic. This causes the demon to struggle in taking over the boy's mind. Does it win? Back to Sabrina. Everyone is now aware as Sabrina leaves the house carrying Santino. The home team tries to cook up a plan, but since the evil uses fear to be stronger, they decide to send Jimmy in search of Santino, and Pedro leaves with Mirtha to find Uriel, the rotten, and cleanse him because right now only the essence of evil is currently free, and if they don't hurry, true evil will be born. They approach a school believing Uriel is there, and in a classroom is the town's children. Evil likes children, and children likes evil. So the evil is using the kids to lie and protect the rotten. Mirtha knows better. She can sense it's a lie, because the kids are trying to send the pair off into other directions, which this confirms to them that he is in fact at the school. Oh, Pedro is going through it, by the way. Understandably so, but during that scene, bro pulls out the Michael Myers Halloween Kills strat. He kicks the truck door open, hitting the girl to the ground, and Brody literally just starts beating her. Like, I know bro is going through it, but possessed or not, that's still a kid. I don't know, it caught me off by surprise, similar to what Jimmy is going through. Matter of fact, let's talk about what he is going through during this moment. My dude Jimmy, who throughout wasn't getting enough attention in my opinion, hopped into a car and headed to find Santino with the possessed Sabrina. He drives during the night, flicking his headlights on and off, because remember, no electrical lights can be used, so he is trying to see for a split second to see what's ahead of him. It's such a unique take on the classic trope of using a Polaroid camera, using a sudden flash of light in order to try and see what lurks in the dark. And he does see something, and here we are. We have just arrived to what I believe to be the next truly disturbing scene. Again, I can't go into super duper deep detail because, yeah. But bear with me on this. So Jimmy sees Sabrina walking, holding on to Santino, but something's off. Jimmy drives by and we see Sabrina using Santino as a popcorn bucket. That's the easy way to describe it. And she's eating the popcorn. Then Jimmy backs up and bam, he hit them with the car and into a tree. Do you remember that theory? This scene is what aided it. Sabrina looks at Jimmy and says, "I thought you loved me." Now, it could have been true, it could have been false. All I know is that this scene was personally my favorite scene of the movie, and I was truly turned off when the scene ended so abruptly. I honestly would have loved to have seen that scene fleshed out a bit more. It was the amazing cinematography mixed with the lighting framing Sabrina walking the beam of the car's headlights that pushed it to the top spot for me. I know for most people, the dog and Vicky scene was the most memorable scene. And while I get it, this scene deserves just as much attention as it's on the same level of disturbing value, with the added sense of chills, which is why I wish the scene lasted just a tad bit longer instead of going back to Pedro or Mirtha so soon. After the film, I went to read some reviews and gather some other people's opinions, and a major thing I've noticed is about Pedro. Some people hated his decision making, and well, some used other words. Most people, and myself included, question why he did what he did in the end. After Mierta clearly repeats to not trust the kids, and after the kids were shown clearly lying, Pedro trusted the kids.
That don't work. There's no way out of this one. You're done.
He left Mierta alone so she was able to get picked off by the kids. Maybe not picked off as much as hammered off, if you know what I'm saying. And afterwards, he finished off Uriel
Pause.
by hitting him over the head over and over. Again, in the way he was told not to. Pedro caused evil to be born. A bloody child emerges from the remains and walks out into the rising sun with a team of kids by their side. But before that, they rub 3 fingers on Pedro's forehead. Now, while I think he wasn't acting the smartest, I do realize what all he has gone through in the past 24 hours. And to be honest, can I blame him? While I can say from the outside looking in, I would have done the right thing, would have been in the right headspace.
Come on, man. That's too easy.
But since I wasn't there, I truly don't know how I would have reacted if dropped into the same position. Well, let's end this thing so we can discuss the message of the film. Pedro arrives back to home base with Jimmy and proceeds to take a shower. He wipes out the blood, but it can't be removed. He has been marked. Jimmy talks to the boy from the beginning, Uriel's little brother. He tells us that he did the same thing to his mother that Yair did to theirs. Remember when I said Yair was possessed? Well, the evil struggled to gain control over his mind, but in the end, it still won. Yair coughs up blood, then hair, and finally, the grandmother's necklace. As promised, this is the true message of the film as told by the director. It's too hard, Rugna told Polygon at the 2023 Fantastic Fest in Austin, Texas. You need to comply with the rules because the demon wants to be with you. But it's too hard for us to run away from cities trying to avoid electricity, to avoid even thinking about the devil. This film, while not perfect, had a uniqueness that caught my attention. It's an evil possession movie, but unlike other popular possession films, this film isn't religious. An exorcism isn't freeing the person being controlled, but cleansing them as they are already gone. I have no religion, the director said, and I hate religion as a business. I love religion as a faith or for helping people, but not as a business. Instead, when the characters in When Evil Lurks have to rely on each other and on their own courage and discipline. That goes poorly, to put it mildly. Going back to earlier, I mentioned how the evil is known. The town and police all seem to know what the rotten are, but again, the police don't help, and those systems have failed entirely because of bureaucratic indifference and laziness. Rugna told the Fantastic Fest audience in a Q&A after the movie's premiere he got the idea for When Evil Lurks from a series of news stories about farm pesticides in his native Argentina causing widespread health issues. He says, the owners of those lands contaminate those fields with glyphosate, to kill bugs, pesticide, he said at the Q&A. There's a lot of people who work in those fields and they get cancer. You'd probably see a little kid with cancer because they are workers. They didn't say anything, or if they say something, nobody knows. He suggests that corporate apathy about the workers' health and the way the issue occurred out in the middle of nothing, where it's easy for profiteers and city dwellers to ignore the impact of their choices, started him thinking about the idea of lurking evils given free rein to spread. All of this combines to create the meaning of the film. He also says, though, how he didn't initially set out to create a message to the film, because to him, an entertaining movie is the most important aspect. But he does mention that due to his background, the message was able to work itself into the writing. I've noticed for a greater horror story, I want to make you suffer, he said, and the social element just comes along with my culture. When Evil Lurks isn't scary because of the plot itself, but it's scary because it's less conventional. It's a different take on the paranormal possession movie. No one is safe. I mean, the 2 disturbing scenes of the film involve the 2 youngest kids, one with Vicky and Roger the dog, and the other with Sabrina and Santino. Usually, in horror, the kids are the safest out of all the characters, but not here. Perhaps the reason for that is given to us by Mierta. Evil likes children, and children likes evil. Honestly, I enjoyed this movie, and while I didn't enjoy everything, like the ending had a few scenes that weren't my thing, but overall, I would have to rate this movie a 7.5 out of 10, and I would give it an 8 out of 10 for its disturbing rating. What is your ranking? Did you enjoy When Evil Lurks? Would you like to see me review more disturbing horror movies? Leave your suggestions down below along with your rankings. This was something new for me, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider hitting that like button and subscribing. I appreciate you and your time. Stay chill, and I will see you next time.
Cause let's face it, baby, these days, you gotta have a sequel.